I was a precocious kid. I was a pain in the ass, actually. These are true stories, by the way. My name is Joseph Ruggiero, born May 17, 1944, in East Harlem, New York, which at that time was the largest Italian enclave in the United States. Approximately 110,000 Italians lived in an area that went from 96th Street to 125th Street, from about 1st Avenue to about 3rd Avenue. I was raised in an apartment building in a walk-up, and downstairs I had the good fortune of having my grandfather. Lord knows he was not a strict grandfather at all with me. He let me get away with murder. My mother used to pawn me off on Nono as soon as she could. Growing up, I was somewhat mischievous. And you want to know something? I guess I can't blame her. But I used to like to go with him. He would take me shopping. He would take me to get a haircut. He would take me everywhere. We used to go to a little bank on 124th Street, which is really still in the middle of Harlem, a little Italian bank. I was about 4 years old. We didn't have a TV. I used to listen to the radio. I would listen to the Lone Ranger, especially my favorite program, and Tonto, and I would listen all about the Cavendish gang, who were bank robbers. You know, I was able to stay up as long as the Lone Ranger was up, and then I had to go to bed. That next morning, I went with Nonna to the bank. And it's a typical bank. In those years, it was, really old-fashioned. There was an armed guard there. There were people who I remember who were lined up making deposits, and Nono waiting online, and I was literally behind him. So you basically couldn't see me. And I yelled out in the loudest voice I could possibly muster, "Get him up! This is a stick-up!" All of a sudden, I see hands go up. I turn around and I see the guard going for his gun. I do remember Nono saying, "No, my grandson, a kid would do that." The guard didn't want to hear it. He says, "No, it's probably the old man," and he put the kid up to it. And I was laughing. I thought, look at the reaction I got. I got the biggest kick out of this. I got people to put their hands up just like I heard on the radio in the Lone Ranger. Oh my God, it was, what a thrill. The neighborhood in which I grew up was very, very, very connected. There were block watchers. You never had to worry about leaving your door open. You never saw strangers walking up and down the block. Very homogenized area. That neighborhood was rife with people with common nicknames. There was Frankie Bevo. The reason they called him Bevo, he looked like Bucky Beaver from the TV. He had buck teeth. There was Johnny Snake, who nobody trusted. There was Anthony Rags, who used to love to wipe his car. Always had the rags go up in his car, called him Tony Rags. There was Frankie Pots and Pans, because his father had the wagon. They used to sell pots and pans. Joey Roast Beef, the father was the butcher. So very colorful names growing up. Now, Nono had a number of elderly men who he'd play bocce with, and I would go with Nono, go watch him play bocce. And I knew a lot of these elderly men that were living in the block. Quick story. I can remember on the 4th of July, the neighborhood was like World War II. A bunch of little friends of mine were setting off fireworks in buildings. We were throwing open the building to get the echo. We decided to put a cherry bomb in the middle of the street, in the middle of a huge dog dropping. We thought that would be the best thing to do. We lit the fuse and took off. Just as that was happening, Mr. D'Alessandro was coming out of the building. He always dressed up in a shirt and tie and a hat. The poop blew up and blew all over Mr. D'Alessandro's suit and his eyeglasses. So he starts yelling, "Son of a bitch, my suit, my hat, my glasses, and everything. I'm all full of doggish shit." He's screaming, and I ran away. What can I tell you? Nona would take me to go see Aunt Mary in Brooklyn. We're going to go see Carmine. Oh, good. We'll go see Carmine, who was a little baby. Well, he was younger. It was almost 3 years difference between Carmine and me. Now, I have some fond memories, and Nona, we would visit with Aunt Mary and wait until Uncle Joey would come home. And at night, my mother and father would come from the fish store to pick me up and Nona and take us home. But I used to have a ball when I used to go to Aunt Mary's. Why? Because Carmine had a pump gun that used to shoot ping pong balls. It was my favorite toy. Every Friday I would go there and get the pump gun. What you would do was you would load up the ping pong balls and you would pump them and they would shoot out. So I would put Carmine, say Carmine stayed there. Now Carmine, God bless him, wherever you put him, he would stay. So I would count it, pump it and hit him in the head with the pump the ping pong balls of Carmine's head. You think, God forbid, he would say anything? Not a word. A wonderful toy chest. Tremendous amount of toys. The grass is always greener. Every Sunday, we would go to my Aunt Jenny's in Astoria. Always for coffee, sometimes for dinner. It would be Nono, and it would be Aunt Jenny and Uncle John, Cousin Louie, Sal. We would all be there. Another incident that I remember happening, they had a train set in their room. When we would go there on a Sunday, sometimes I would kind of like, sneak into their room, look around. I mean, they were like big boys to me. And they had a train set. I would go and try, play with the trains. And I would get yelled at. Stay away from the train. Don't you dare go near, don't go near the train, don't touch the trains. I was a little kid. I was being picked on. And I really felt that. Oh, I went outside and I was starting to crying. Well, Aunt Jenny, I'll never forget, came looking at me. Joseph, what's the matter, honey? They yelled at me, they won't let me play with their train. Who won't let you play with their train? Sal and Louie are both of them. All of a sudden, she goes into the room. I hear bam, slam, yelling at both of them. You let your little cousin play with these trains. You let him go near it. Don't you do it. Pop, 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 pop. She probably gave them each a smack. And good. I'm glad that she did. All of a sudden, I come strolling in. They said, can I see the train, boys? Oh, they had gotten their butts kicked. And rightfully so. Pick on their little baby cousin like that. Terrible. Nonna would take me to school every morning. He always used to hold my hand very tight because he knew I'd break away from him running the street. One morning, we were going to school, and as we were passing this building, I heard a thump. It was right behind us. And Nonna turned around, didn't miss a beat. He said, no, turn around. I turned around and I saw something lying there. I didn't pay any attention. So I kept going. Came home and I said, no, what happened to that poor man? Oh, he says he fell from the roof. Oh, I says, it's a shame. He didn't want to make a big deal about it and forgot about it. As I grew up, I found that somebody threw this guy off a roof, and that was he met his demise right there and then. But it was very, very commonplace, unfortunately. But, that's what kept the neighborhood safe in those days. But that's another story.